how to recover from burnout in your 30s. So maybe you're here because you're feeling stuck. Maybe you're feeling like you're just empty inside, mentally exhausted, and you've lost that sense that you used to have earlier on in your career, where you were ambitious and you wanted to be successful and you wanted to do a job well done, and lately you just feel like you don't care anymore. Like, what's the point? What's the point of anything? And I think this is something that can actually happen a lot in your 30s, because it's the time when you're supposed to have things together and you have your experience, etc., but you've kind of lost that enthusiasm of your 20s, where you feel like, all right, I'm the newbie, I'm launching my career, I have my whole life ahead of me. And so by the time you hit your 30s, you have just enough experience to know how much the job market actually sucks a lot of the time, like how much a lot of jobs are terrible. And you've had that experience and you've become disillusioned and you feel like this is not interesting to me. I don't even care about my career anymore because no job sounds exciting. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can take some measures to recover from burnout, because obviously deep down, that's not the kind of person that you want to be. And I guess I should be putting a disclaimer on this type of video, since burnout is a mental health label and people get all upset when it comes to, throwing labels around and things like that. So obviously I'm not a mental health professional. I am a career coach. And so anything to do with getting yourself diagnosed, go to a real doctor. We're not here to diagnose you, but we're here to discuss the feeling of burnout, whether it's been officially diagnosed or whether you just suspect that this is probably what you're going through to some extent. So let's dive in, because I know that if you're here, you're the kind of person who doesn't want to be burned out. Like this, this isn't the real you, but this is what's happening right now, and this is real life. And so how do you get yourself out of that? And and I'm not just rambling on out of theoretically, because I've been there as well. So I'm going to really, really briefly go over what burnout is, but I don't want to spend too long on that, because you've probably Googled the heck out of it already, and you understand that, hey, I'm experiencing something like burnout, and you want to find the solution. Like, how do I get out of it? So we're going to go into the solutions, and I'm going to tell you what has worked for me. Will it work? Will the same thing that worked for me work for you? Maybe not. There are different things that work for different people. So I'm going to share all of those different things, and you're going to be able to choose which is the one which applies best to you. So the first thing is, what are the actual symptoms of burnout? You know what it feels like: exhaustion, disinterest, poor performance, irritability, lack of empathy. But even if you know those symptoms, it can still be really hard to recognize it for a couple of reasons. Number one, these are things we feel on a regular basis regardless, right? Like, we all get annoyed once in a while. So it can be tricky to know when is it enough that it actually means you're experiencing the signs of burnout. And also, a lot of burnout symptoms, I feel, are very much normalized in the modern workplace. So feeling disheartened, feeling like, oh, it's Monday, feeling like, ugh, work is so uninteresting, I don't feel like going in, do I have to? That's very normalized. Most of your friends and family probably feel that way about work. And so it just makes a lot of the symptoms of burnout very normalized. It's hard to understand when you're actually burned out. Another thing is that another symptom of burnout is inability to focus. And a lot of people are also so addicted to social media these days that a lot of people have trouble focusing, right? And people don't tend to chalk it up to burnout. They'll say, oh, just get more sleep, or stop checking social media so often, etc. So anyway, there are different symptoms of burnout. My non-professional advice to you, if you want to know if you're getting burned out, is obviously if it's really serious, go and see a doctor. Don't hesitate to do that. But also, I think it's a good idea to think about a time when you felt inspired about your life and you felt like you were productive. You were kind of your best self. Like, you were productive, you were inspired, you were working on something, you had your goals. You want to kind of compare that person to who you are right now and ask yourself, am I still that person, or am I starting to lose that person? The reason I say starting to lose that person is that sometimes the symptoms are not bad enough yet that you would actually get diagnosed with anything, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't start to do something about it, because this is going to start happening before the diagnosis. And recovery from burnout, if you really reach that rock bottom, can take a really long time. I've talked to people who, this makes me so sad, I've talked to people who have had burnout and they've taken like 3 years, 5 years to recover. And in that time, obviously they're not the person they want to be. They get tired faster. They don't take the same amount of joy in activities that they used to a lot of the time. They don't have their focus. Often they lose out on a lot of income because they're not really able to work like they used to for that time. Even if they're able to maintain their job, obviously they don't get the promotions. They don't get to rise up to something else. And I've had people who kind of have to move back with their parents and stuff like that because they can't pay their own bills anymore while they're recovering from this burnout, which takes an eternity to recover from. Like, if you think about most diseases or health issues, a lot of them are resolved within a year's time, right? Like, I'm thinking, of course, this all depends on what you have. So many different diseases in the world. But my mom, she had cancer last year. It took her about a year to go through all the different treatments, which is a long time, right? And I know some people, it takes even longer. But can you imagine a disease that takes like multiple years, that a lot of people don't even consider a real disease, to get over? And that's what burnout is. It can take ages to recover. And the worst part is that usually, or often, the people who get burned out are the people who are the hardest working and who actually cared the most about their jobs and about their work in the first place. Like, I have a friend who was one of the hardest workers where she used to work. She was at an NGO, and there was kind of that's a lot of stress and a lot of that feeling of you must serve others. You're here to serve others, not to complain about your own situation or anything like that. And she noticed some of her coworkers weren't as hardworking as she was, but she was really on a mission. She wanted to help people. She wanted to give it everything. She ended up burning out, and it just took her years to recover. And then even now, as she tries to get herself back into the job market, it's scary because there's this stress about getting back into the job market, and okay, I can't burn out again, so I need to be really careful. And then it's really hard to get that motivation to be successful again when at the same time you're feeling like you need to tread so carefully. You don't want to get burned out. You don't want to reactivate your nervous system, and and it's very difficult because every job seems to want people who are highly motivated and able to work under pressure and driven and all those kinds of, typical adjectives. And for someone who's been burned out, it's like, I need to take care of my health. I don't want to be in a high pressure environment where I need to be driven and, this kind of constant acute stress day in and day out. So it's difficult. When you go on the internet and you look for cures for burnout, you're going to see things which are helpful. Yes, I have to admit, they're helpful. They're good things to know, right? Like, be more mindful, do meditation, take walks in nature, take breaks, spend time with friends. These are all great things. I'm not saying that they're not good. It's just that when you're burned out, those things won't necessarily fix the situation, and it still takes a long time. So I don't just want to repeat all the other advice out there, which is, all of those kinds of things that you probably know already, but I want to talk about how do you actually continue to function in the work world. Well, it's not like you can just quit your job. Well, probably, maybe you can, but a lot of people cannot just quit their jobs and start going on nature walks every day towards recovery, right? So what are you supposed to do? I think that the first thing is to reassess your work and how that's balancing out with the rest of your life, and most of all, your priorities. So a lot of people who get burned out are either in a very high pressure environment, so they've chosen a line of work that's just very, very high pressure. They might want to, if that's the case, you might want to ask yourself, is this the right environment for me? And if it is, because some people really thrive in those environments, which is cool. So if you still feel like that's the environment for you and you actually love it, even though it's burning you out, then you need to possibly reassess the way you're showing up in that environment. Is there something you can cut out? Is there something you can focus on? Are you focusing on your high value skill set, or are you trying to do everything and anything kind of thing? Now, there's another kind of person who's actually in the wrong environment. So you might realize that I am in the wrong line of work, either because it is too high stress and that's just not how you enjoy operating, or because the job you're in is not aligned to who you are and what's right for you. So if your job is somehow going against your core values, or it's just not interesting for you, or it's just not the right line of work for you, that creates a lot of stress. Stress is not always created by high pressure environment or tight deadlines. That's one type of stress. But another type of stress, which I've seen lead people to burnout, is that disconnect between who they are and the right type of work for them and where they're actually working. And in that case, you need to go in and reassess what it is that you want to do with your time on this planet and get yourself into a workplace that's more aligned with you and who you are and what you have to offer. And also, in both cases, think about aligning where you're working with your high value skill set so that you're not necessarily spending more time. It's kind of like less is more. You focus on the thing that you're really amazing at, as opposed to trying to just do everything and be everything to everyone, which creates a lot of stress. I would say what worked best for me personally when I was dealing with burnout was to start prioritizing my personal life just as much as my work life. So that's where I would say, okay, going for those nature walks is just as important as getting something on my to-do list done. And as opposed to going for that nature walk or going to the gym or seeing a friend only if I got my work done, I would prioritize that just as much. And then I would do my most important task first thing in the morning. That way, as long as I got that thing done, I had done something productive that day. And even if the rest of the day, my brain was a bit too frazzled to get much done, at least I had done that one most important thing and I could feel good about it. So that's something that might be helpful to you. But most of all, as well for me, it was getting myself into the right job, because as long as I was not in the right job, it wouldn't matter how much mindfulness I tried to do, how much yoga, how much hanging out with friends. None of it would make up for the sense of purposelessness that I was feeling in my job. And yeah, life is definitely too short to spend it feeling burned out. You have so much to offer. You are an ambitious person and you have an amazing fire inside of you. Otherwise, you would not be watching this video. You would not be Googling, how do I recover from burnout? And I think it's also a case of maintaining that fire inside, going back to it, remembering it. Are you going to be able to feel it every single day? Maybe not, but every day you can remember that fire that you used to have and you can bring it back in an even bigger way. And you can take this as your chance to get your energy back and start pumping yourself up for that next step of your life post burnout. And then moving forward, it's so important to prioritize your personal needs and your health needs just as much as your work goals. And I feel like these days there's a lot of talk about I was going to say self-help, but what I meant to say was self-care. A lot of self-care talk, is everything's fine, take care of yourself, just be easier on yourself. And I know when I would talk to my friends and family, and if I tell them about the kind of pressures I put on myself when it comes to my career and my success path, they'll always say, oh, but you're doing so well, just to worry about it and don't be so hard on yourself. And I really appreciate people saying that because I know it's coming from a good place. but it also doesn't necessarily help to cure burnout, because once you're burned out, it takes a lot of time to recover. You need to really look after your brain, and you need to get aligned again with your purpose and what it is that you want to do. So really, the best thing you can do is obviously to prevent burnout, because once you kind of extinguish your brain, it's hard to get it back again. But it will come back. It definitely will come back. Just take really good care of it. And I would say just really keep kindling that source of inspiration within you. You will get it back. And don't give up hope, because there is a you post burnout, and it is your best you yet. It is your best you ever. So keep reconnecting to yourself post burnout, and remembering that this is just a blip along the road. This is one obstacle you're encountering along your career, and you're going to recover from it, and you're going to come back stronger and better than ever with your best work-life balance from now on. So let me know below if you're comfortable with it, about your burnout situation. How long has it been going on? What are you doing to recover? What helps you the most, or what has helped you in the past, if this is something you've experienced before? And thanks for watching. I hope that this was somehow helpful to you. I just find a lot of the burnout recovery material on the interwebs is not that helpful in practice for busy people who need to maintain a job and stuff like that. But it's also because, it is a process to recover, and there isn't that magic pill solution, and it's not like one Google search you can suddenly find the answer. It's a very personalized journey for everyone recovering burnout. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey if you're willing to share. And thanks for watching.